Hey guys, so I was reading this article, right? HPDD explores taller blocks, 60-story BTO project reviewed in Pearl's Hill. And something really stood out to me. So everyone is getting very excited about the 60 stories and Singapore's tallest HDB ever, and yes, this is the first BTO in Pearl's Hill in over 40 years. But what I think deserves a much closer look is the question of what actually happens to your money when you eventually sell this flat. Because the answer is, I believe, far more layered than most people going into the ballot will realize. So I have 3 takeaways from this article. Stay with me, let's go. So takeaway number 1, it's about subsidy clawback. And Pearl's Hill is projected to hit 20%, the highest we have ever seen for any Prime BTO launch in Singapore so far. To understand why that matters, we need to see how quickly this number has climbed. When Rocher launched in November 2021 as the very first Prime BTO in Singapore, the clawback was about 6%. By October 2024, Queenstown was already at 9%. Alexandra Vista and Alexandra Peaks in July 2025 pushed it to 11%. And then Ballot in October 2025 came in at 14%. Now, Pearl's Hill, analysts are projecting it could reach as high as 20%. So, at 20% on a projected 1.4 million resale value, you are returning essentially 280,000 to HDB before you pocket anything, which leaves you with a net capital gain of around 370,000 after your estimated 750,000 purchase price. So, the reason the government keeps pushing this number higher and higher is sitting right next door, Pinnacle Duxton, which shares the same Outram Park MRT interchange. It shows you exactly what they are trying to avoid repeating. So, a 4-room flat there was bought in 2009 for about $378,000. And in March 2025, one sold for a record 1.518 million. That is roughly 1.14 million in capital gains with zero clawback. A 5-room there went for about 1.58 million in June 2025. That $770,000 difference between what a Pinnacle buyer walked away with and what a Pearl's Hill buyer will likely keep is exactly the gap the clawback is designed to close. You are still doing well, but you are sharing more of it back with HDB. And you want to know that before you even press the apply button. So my second takeaway is where it gets really specific to Pearl's Hill, because a standard BTO has a 5-year MOP. Pearl's Hill, as a prime flat, will come with a 10-year MOP. Now, the financial consequence of that extra 5 years is something most buyers have never actually sat down and calculated. So let's use an example, a 4-room flat at $750,000, which is a reasonable midpoint based on current analyst expectations. So with today's rules, with both HDB loans and bank loans capped at 75% LTV, your loan amount is going to be around $562,500 and your down payment of $187,500 of about 25%. So if you take HDB concessionary loan of 2.6% over 25 years, your monthly installment works out to be roughly $2,552. Now think about what happens inside your CPF OA over the 10 years after TOP. So if you use your CPF for the full down payment for your monthly installments, you would have pulled out roughly $494,000 from CPF by the time you reach the end of your 10-year MOP. So on top of that, CPF charges 2.5% accrued interest on all the money we draw for housing, and over that period of 10 years, the accrued interest can add up to around $72,000. So when you eventually sell, the total amount you have to refund back your CPF OA is in the ballpark of around $566,000. So let's put the full exit picture together. Now, suppose you sell your Pearl's Hill flat for $1.4 million. So first, HDB takes the 20% clawback, and that's about $280,000, and you are left with $1.12 million. Next, you clear out whatever is left of your mortgage. After 10 years, your outstanding loan would still be roughly $380,000. Then you refund back another $566,000 back into CPF. So after those deductions, the actual cash in your bank account is only around $174,000. The good news is that $566,000 going back into your CPF is still your money and can be used for your next property purchase. So your total war chest, cash plus CPF, is around $740,000. Now that is a solid platform for upgrading. So what's the trade-off? The trade-off is time. Right, a couple in their early 30s who buy Pearl's Hill today will only clear their MOP in the early 2040s, which means they will be in their mid-40s when they can finally execute their next move. Compare this to a similar couple who buys a standard 5-year MOP BTO in a non-prime area, could already be shopping for a private property. Now that is a full decade of portfolio building and private market appreciation that a Pearl's Hill buyer is consciously giving up. So if your main goal is long-term city fringe home, close to CBD and major hospitals, with a beautiful park and a full town center coming up around you, this trade-off can make perfect sense. But if you see yourself as a fast upgrader, you BTO, MOP, sell, then you buy condo, then this specific project is working against your natural strategy. So for my takeaway number 3, is the most important one, and it is simply about buyer profile. Okay, this project is not meant for everyone, and the rules are designed that way on purpose. So Pearl's Hill sits beside Outram Park MRT, with 3 MRT lines, and the plan is to add around 6,000 new homes in this area over the next decade, plus a mixed-use precinct with shops, food, community spaces, and a direct green connection through Pearl's Hill City Park. On top of that, HDB is also doubling the third child priority quota for this specific launch, which already tells you they are trying to anchor more families into this location rather than speculators or short-term flippers. So your question will be, who is this flat really for? In my opinion, it's for family who wants to live near the city, who values being 5 to 10 minutes from the CBD, SGH, Chinatown, Robertson Quay, and who is comfortable with holding this home for at least 10 years, maybe even longer. Now, for this profile, paying around $750,000 for a 4-room flat in such a central location, while a comparable private 2-bedder next door at one Pearl Bank is transacting around $1.9 million. It's still a very strong value proposition, even with the 20% clawback built in. So who is this flat not ideal for? It is not ideal for the upgrader whose main game plan is to BTO cheap, MOP fast, cash out, and buy a condo. Now, the 20% clawback reduces your upside. The 10-year MOP delays your next move, and the CPF lockup means most of your wealth is stuck in one address for a full decade. There are many other BTO launches, especially in the standard categories, that are far better aligned for that kind of strategy. So the key is to be brutally honest with yourself. If you can picture your family still living in this flat in 2040, walking down to Outram Park MRT and enjoying a fully developed Pearls Hill precinct, then this project can be a powerful way to lock in a central location at an HDB price. If, on the other hand, you already know that you will get itchy feet after 5 to 7 years and you want to move on to a condo, then forcing yourself into a 10-year MOP with 20% clawback is going to feel like you are fighting the system instead of working with it. So the real question I want you to think about is this. Are you the long-term owner that Pearls Hill is designed for, or are you actually an upgrader trying to use a prime flat for a strategy that fits a standard project better? If you are not fully sure which camp you fall into, or you want to see how your own income, CPF, and upgrading timeline stack up against these numbers, feel free to DM or WhatsApp to me, or you can drop a comment down below and I'll be happy to run through your specific situation with you. So this is just my personal opinion based on what I'm seeing in the Singapore property market today, not financial advice. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.